gentlemen, and all genders outside and in between. Welcome back to Thirsty Work, the all-new sex education podcast. I'm joined today by Andy Train, and we're going to be talking about pride and life through the ages, you know? It's Thirsty Work. Hello, you delightful individuals. How's it going? Welcome on in. It's a bit different today. I'm sat on the sofa with my wonderful friend Andy. How's it going?
Hello. Really good. Thank you, Valen.
Oh, very delightful. It's glorious. And yeah, it's a little bit different. And I'm like, all of the bits and pieces are all over the place. So I've got screens coming out all over the place. So it's a bit peculiar, but we're doing all right. So it's good to do like an in-person podcast. It has to be said.
It's lovely.
It's great. Andy Train,
hello.
How's it going? How are you doing?
It's going all right, yeah.
Yeah, doing okay?
Strange times.
Strange times, very strange times.
Yeah, very strange times. Plodding on the things. The balance of self-employment versus what I call the free stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So the volunteer things, just keeping that on a level. And it's that time of year where my facial hair starts to disappear. I've receded to just a small moustache.
Just a small moustache,
yes. Yeah. And I know there'll be a lot of people in my life who love the small moustache.
Oh yes, little tickle.
My next door neighbour, she loves She loves when I've got a full beard and everything. But certain things I do, I'm not allowed to have facial hair.
No, of course not.
I know, and it's just in the name of performance and art.
You do have quite the variety of facial. I feel like every single time I see you, you've got a different style of facial hair. This is the first time I've seen the moustache. I have to say.
Yeah. This is pre when I'm doing the. I think. Let me think. What should I say? Well, if I say fat controller, that's the old term.
Yeah,
we don't say that anymore. It's the top of that. But I'm part of a completely different world of performance and it's very controlled, and I have to remove all the facial hair.
Oh yes,
for that,
of course.
And so various things. So people know me for different things. So some people know me for that. Some people know me as former A&E nurse.
Oh really? I didn't realize you were a nurse.
Yeah. That's my background once upon a time. And after a brief stint at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival doing stand-up comedy, and coming out, my life kind of flipped.
Oh yeah.
And then I discovered I was a lot more creative and colourful, despite looking like a giant panda at the moment. A lot more exciting, and there was more to life.
Yes.
Than maybe this controlled little box that I'd put myself into.
Is that how you felt like the whole way through? Then, just like you felt you were in this controlled box in your early life, that you weren't allowed to express yourself properly, that kind of thing.
In the UK, as a child of the 70s and 80s, and not being given any choices or options, no viable role models, really.
Yeah.
I suppose also I'd been told from a very early age that I was the last one of my line. I was literally the last train.
Oh wow!
I know the pressure on a child to have that, and I'm not blaming anybody. I mean, I think maybe that's that I maybe kind of blew it up more than it was as a child, but felt the pressure that I had to get married and had to have kids. I've got a daughter. There we are. Boom. So I've done my bit, and she's absolutely wonderful, and the most, the biggest and best thing really for me from the outcome of that particular relationship. But the church had done its magic as well. So the Church of England, I was in choir at the Church of England, and it's very wrong.
Yes.
You shouldn't do that. I mean, even though I knew a lot of fairly camp people and folks who maybe were out or not out or whatever, but it was very wrong. It was a sin.
Yes.
And you're a very bad person. The age of consent was obviously very different as well.
Yeah.
A lot of younger people these days, sort of roll their eyes when they realise that it's 21.
Yeah.
Back then. So under 21 you were illegal. And then obviously the stepping stone of then 18, and now obviously it's the same.
Yeah.
So 16 it is, which is fabulous, and as it should be. Equality, there it is.
Equality for all genders. That's what we're after.
So having that, and then at school with Section 28, and having this kind of repressive regime from the government,
which we're seeing a lot of repetitions in this day and age.
Absolutely, the world, and as I always keep telling people, we've got to keep up the pressure and I'm not necessarily one for the, as folks often say, ramming it down your throat.
Yeah,
unless somebody asks very nicely, then that may not happen. There's always a time and a place. But no, absolutely. I think we've been I think the vast majority of opportunities where folks get that education and get introduced to good individuals who will tell them exactly how it is, will be honest and open, and allow them spaces to be themselves and explore, and a phrase we use a lot, their true authentic selves, which is really cool, because I truly believe the pressure cooker lid was on me, and the situation that I got myself into, and after 4 years of being married, as far as the world was concerned, being heterosexual, it just exploded apart.
Yeah, and this is what we've always been after, isn't it? The idea of let people do what they want, as long as it's all between consenting adults, really.
Absolutely.
And that's the most important thing. And so, is it weird when you think back to those times of having been married?
Yeah,
like to a cisgendered woman, just being like, oh God, I did 4 years of this. There was a whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, I look back as well, and I realised that there was stuff from the age of about 15 I was aware of.
Yeah. Oh right, okay.
Yeah, and my mate, and again, they're not here to defend themselves or to deny it or whatever, but as teenagers, there was feelings, there was stuff that went on, fairly, I would say, soft stuff, that just made me, sort of think, oh, well, that's that. And then again, reading around the subject at the time, realizing, I mean, this is all internet, and, and not being aware of anything, and teachers and healthcare professionals being forbade. It was against the law. That's what Section 28 was. Yeah. It stopped people from presenting anything other than a straight, presentation of individuals, and of course the AIDS crisis, the tombstone, ads on TV, that was the price that was paid, and the dreadful attitude and bullying, and
there was so much misinformation
horrible,
about that.
Very scary, and that was all out there as well. So I mean, we really had very little chance to kind of really find out what was what. But I do know that things happened. I do know how I felt.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, especially looking back on it now, because I was very, very young during the AIDS crisis and what have you, so I had no concept of it. But looking back at it now, it's the realization of the misinformation, and looking back, it's also that whole dynamic of every step forward that the LGBTQIA have had, there's been a massive onslaught of hammering down on it. You've had enough progress, thank you very much. Let's find something else that we can hammer you down with.
We've given you 18. We've given you 18. We know that straight people can have physical relationships, consenting physical relationships at 16, but you've got 18. Be happy.
So that was what it was. So it was you before. Obviously, at one stage it was illegal.
Yeah.
And then it was heterosexual couples with the illegal age in this country, in the United Kingdom, was 16. Yeah. But for homosexuals it was 18.
Well, for a very brief period of time, 18. Okay. And then eventually 16. Okay. I mean, you couldn't be in the armed forces officially.
Yes.
Prior to the year 2000. That. So I think about my involvement with Prides and the Pride movement, sort of from about 2002 when Pride in Hull began, and it had only been 2 years of that experience of people being able to be in the armed forces and be out. Yeah. But it's this. It's just taken so long for folks to get the idea, and changing laws. I mean, you can just go and change the law, and that's gone and that's through. But it's going to take ages to get it through the people's minds, and their attitudes, standards. And that's the thing. So dealing with. I mean, my first experience of homophobia was trying to buy an actual physical copy of Gay Times in W.H. Smith's in Hull.
Oh, really?
So, and I felt a bit proud that had happened. It was almost like a badge of honour.
Yeah. It's like the first time you get a negative comment on YouTube or something. You're just like, yes, there it is. I've made it. Filthy
look from the guy serving me. And, wanting a plain, would you like a plain cover for this thing? And it's like, wow, that's amazing. Even like wearing a an AIDS ribbon or a rainbow scarf or something. Now I as an older person, I'm older, midlife, whatever. I don't give two hoots now. No? I've kind of become emboldened and brassy about it, and I'm quite happy to have this. I made those choices, and good on me or whatever, and anybody, having those choices. It's just a colourful, it's colourful stuff or whatever. I mean, I'm not tonight, but
Sorry, the stark contrast is appreciated.
I know. I was going to say, because normally, I mean, people know me for the rainbow moustache or the rainbow beard or the whatever. I mean, I did meet Clang name dropping the Prime Minister at the time in 2017 when we were the first UK Pride in Hull. And City of Culture, of course.
Yeah.
And they told Downing Street. You can come to Downing Street, and there's a do. Okay. And you and a colleague can come down from Hull. And basically, I ate my body weight I drank my body weight in white wine and cake in Downing Street. But they take your phones off you when you go in.
All right. Okay.
And my mission, if I chose to accept it, was to get the Prime Minister, Theresa May, to wear a UK Pride badge and a UK City of Culture volunteers badge as well. To get those to us. That's all my mission was. And I'd gone down, I had a rainbow moustache and suit and everything, and we went in, and that's all I wanted to do. I mean, there's the good and the great, predominantly from that part of the country. And I said to Colin Wilson, bless him, and I said, look, I want to do this. He was the guy I went down with from Pride in Hull, and apart from all the sycophants and all the other, what are called greasy pole people, with their MP friends, naturally, and things, absolutely. And then the press secretary said, Prime Minister, there's a gentleman from Hull. He's got a rainbow moustache. You must meet him. And it was like the Red Sea parting, and then there she was at the end of this corridor of bodies.
Oh my lordy.
And so I stepped forward, and I mean, she just delivered a speech, and she'd apologised for Section 28. She said, I have the right to change my mind, and I was wrong.
Yeah,
and I apologise. And I did vote for the woman, but I'm not here to talk about that.
No.
But what I am here to say is that I'm respectful of the office, and the opportunity, and I took it with both hands. And I went through and I shook her hand, and she give her credit where credit's due. She put the badge straight on.
Oh yeah.
And it was like yes, there you go. And if I do nothing else, then that's what I've
it.
done.
You made the Prime Minister,
and we've got a picture with her and our badge and all of that. But it's just those things that are really, really. I mean, it's silly and daft, but really, really important. I don't know how we got to that, but anyway, that's by the by.
Naturally.
But the journey of discovering and exploring and meeting some amazing people and being in some incredible venues and events and listening to individuals who have been at the forefront of the struggle, being in New York 50 years on to the very night of the Stonewall riot beginning, and meeting the glass collector who was in there on the night, and having that opportunity, again, another handshake opportunity, to sort of speak to him and say, actually, what was that like?
Yeah.
It was just incredible.
Yeah.
So those things that Pride events have given me those chances to kind of then spread the word.
Because you've become basically the face of Pride for a lot of or whether you know it or not, you've definitely become, like, when I think of Pride, and when I ask people around the hometown that think of Pride, like you and your rainbow beard or rainbow moustache are what spring to mind. Yeah,
I mean, and as I always rebut and say, well, that's fine because I'm less hassled about being on the radio or being on Newsnight or whatever it is. I mean, Philip Schofield came out, let's talk to someone who came out later in life. Yeah, that'll be me then. I came out at the age of literally the day before my birthday in 2002, so would have been 32, 33. I stood no chance because, I mean, you go in an LGBT plus friendly venue, anybody over 30 is old. I mean, it's like, it's really, it's so difficult. It's an uphill struggle. And I'd had a reset, and this is kind of I couldn't understand why I'd feel more comfortable or hang around with, I would say, people maybe about 10 years younger than me, so in their 20s. So I'd kind of done a reset when I came out, and reset from being straight to kind of, am I gay? There was questioning.
Yeah.
There was, this is way before the word queer was started to be reused,
queer
to be changed,
reclaimed. Slur. Yeah, I was about to say it was definitely a slur.
Definitely. I mean, definitely for me at school, and I didn't want to be one of those people that were called queer, or you queer whatever. There would always be an expletive either side or both.
I remember very clearly growing up in school, and gay was the offensive word.
Yeah,
it was like, oh, you're gay, and these days, I've got friends who have got children and stuff, and they're like, yeah, what's the issue with it? And that's amazing. That's such a phenomenal thing to see. Like a 9-10-year-old be like, yeah, and I'm like that. Like at that age, I would be like, no, I'm not gay.
No. Yeah, how dare you? Just like, you saw the treatment meted out to individuals who were, or even just a bit effeminate.
Yeah,
it might not have even been, and let alone talk about trans. My goodness me. Yeah. So I came out and was in a bit of a mess, really, and there wasn't anywhere to go. If I'd been a young person, there were support groups.
Because when was the first Pride in Hull?
So that would have been the same year I came out.
So 2002,
yeah. And I was there.
You were there?
I was there. In fact, my mates and I had been to, I used to do this thing where I would go across the Pennines, I'd take my wedding ring off. Not that I was seeing anybody else or having an affair, but it was easier to not be that married, because marriage then was still straight people.
Yeah.
So that would come off, and then we'd go out on Canal Street, because Queer as Folk had happened on TV, and that had been something. And younger friends who'd come out and obviously showed me that they could have a life, that it was okay, and there was support. And so we'd go to where do we go? We go to gay Mecca there. We go to no disrespect to anybody from a Muslim faith point of view, by the way.
No.
But we would go to where we perceived that would be the best place.
Yeah, the promised land for the gays. Yeah.
I mean, there was a silhouette in Hull.
Yeah.
And there was occasionally a charabang that would go from the Polar Bear to Wakefield.
Oh wow!
To downtown or wherever, and there would be, we'll go to a gay bar there, and then we'd bring you. So it was a proper gay bar, you see.
Yeah.
And then we'd bring you back, and we'd put this wristband on, and it was all you could drink. And I mean, and people did.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like, wow. Time to go. No, I've not finished in here.
Yeah, I remember.
I am still doing this thing.
Still going. I remember being like going for my first night out with the gays, and just being like, gee, they're troopers. They are going for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the only people that I know that party harder than the gay community, the gay culture, are strippers. They're the only people I know that party. Yeah, they're the only ones that I was just like, because I was like, oh yeah, I can handle anything now, because I've been out for several nights out with a lot of gay, wonderful, queer individuals, and then I went out with some strippers, and I was just like sex workers, and I was like, you people are a next level. You are a wild individuals.
I'd say nurses are quite high on that list as well. I mean, there's been a few crazy nights out with...
you were a nurse.
Cardiologist. I mean, I know this is a thing. And in fact, even when I was working in Hull Royal in accident emergency, there were colleagues who would say, oh yeah, we knew you were gay.
Mm-hmm.
We knew you were gay. Why didn't people tell me?
Why didn't somebody
come up
me?
and say, look, will you just get it? This is like towards that point in my life when I was, towards coming out. But I think that I had to do, and I hate to be all social workery on that, but I think I've had to do the experience those things I've experienced to get to where I got to, and then since then keep going with that experience. And I do think that the development has continued, and the full circle stuff, even with the faith, being part of the LGBT plus Christian Fellowship for Hull, has kind of helped me reconcile a lot of the negative experiences.
You've grown up with this entire dynamic that it's sin, it's wrong.
Well, I know. And then and all of that. So anyway, we'd gone back to the story. Back to the story, folks. There's tune in. Keep up with it in my head. I started going Eddie Izzard storytelling. Oh yes, hello, you cat in the corner. Yes, look at you. Yes, you are. So we came back to Hull, and Radio Homicide said, "Yeah, we've got this. There's this opportunity, the first one ever of a gay pride event in the city, and we were really curious about that.
Yeah,
especially after the weekend we'd had.
Yeah,
so hungover." Still very kind of buzzing, exciting, and before I went back to being straight again, we called in at this event, and I mean nobody knew, nobody asked for our names, nobody questioned anybody, nobody said why are you here, just welcome as it is for Prides generally. And so that was that, and then I think between then that and the next time, I'd come out.
Yeah,
and it was scary because it was like leaping into the unknown. I'd made those choices. I'd already stood there before family, friends, and God, and said, "Here I am. I love this woman, and I want to be married." And genuinely, that's what I wanted at that time. Yeah. That's what I felt, and I thought I could just simply go, "That's me. I've made my choices, and." But you've made your bed, you lie in it, boom, and that's how it is.
That moment of like, it'll all be all right when, and it's like, it'll all be all right. These confusions I feel will all be fine as soon as I'm married.
Yeah, these other things will go away, and that'll be fine, and that's what happened. So that was like before then. So all the Manchester trip and the Pride thing and the visit to Pride, that was all during that period of me being married.
Yeah.
So yeah, a bit sneaky, I guess. But the curiosity and the I mean, I can't express how dark. I used to punch the walls. There's a house in Driffield with holes in it, probably still, from me punching. I've never punched a wall since. The frustration, the anger, the not directed at anybody in particular, more myself, sadness, and the suicidal thoughts, and not wanting to upset or trigger anybody, but there was help, and there is help.
Yes,
and I wasn't on my own, and there was an organisation that wasn't in my area that I could go to, and it was in York. So I was living in Driffield at the time, and in the East Riding of Yorkshire, and I was Mesmac, and I vowed from that moment on that there would be other opportunities for people who were like me, and there wouldn't be this nothing that there was when I came out. So that's why I got involved, and that's been the driver.
Yeah,
that and the knighthood has been the driver.
That as well.
Or dameship or whatever. That has been the driver. Certainly not financial, because you're conscious of popular opinion.
Yeah,
Pride does not, unless you are, mainstream performer and big name or whatever, RuPaul Drag Race person. Pride's expensive.
Yes,
for volunteers, people who are involved, people who want to, do their thing and spread the word. It's an emotional and often personal financial investment in kind of yourself.
I was also like talking about that first Pride. That was before any companies were willing to get involved and put their names on the line.
Absolutely.
So that was literally just I mean, this is where there's this constant thing every year I find with Pride, especially now being more and more on the internet, is that entire dynamic of Pride's not just for June, July, like it's not. It's for all times, and it's all very well. You get all these companies that are constantly like, "Oh yes, we're Pride," and then have terrible discrimination practices.
Yeah, awful. They've got the policies, procedures, not supporting staff. It's all pink washing, rainbow washing, pink washing, whatever you want to call it. Buy our merch. Aren't we amazing? We support you. And they'll change their logo online and then go back to being, transphobic, homophobic, and awful people, misogynists for the rest of the year. And that's where we as people have to be clever and discerning in our choices that we make about where we buy our stuff and where we put our pink pound. Because it is quite powerful. Where we holiday, where we do whatever we do, where we eat, where we meet people, what we do. So, and I always say, do support prides, do support your local pride that's might be tinsy wincy and just starting out, fledgling, and they might not even have an LGBT plus friendly venue, because we didn't have many when we started.
No.
Silhouettes was the main thing, and occasionally some of the mainstream venues would have a gay night. They would have a gay night.
Of course, like it's an entire gimmick in and of itself.
Yeah. And we'll get it. We'll do a night for the gays. They'll love it, because that's how people speak in Hull.
Naturally,
and we would, because we'd go, and because that's what's on offer. Well, of course you would, because where else do you meet people? And again, this was pre-apps.
Yeah,
so
I mean, pre-internet,
you'd see an ad in a paper, man curious, when you meet other men, and people would take risks. I've taken 1990s.
Yeah,
certainly there is another opportunity to talk at some point about risk taking that people will still do now. Men who have sex with men who are not necessarily identify as gay or otherwise, or even bi, or even pansexual, will attempt to connect with other men, in quite risky ways.
Yeah, and
they do, and the whole cottaging and the whole all of those things that particularly in the 1950s and 60s in the UK happened. I mean, one area and a lighter aspect of it that I adore is Polari.
All right.
So the language of the gays and the hidden, kind of being in plain sight, but being able to say, Aunt Valen got a dolly old eek, Avavadra is lallies, basically means you've got a pretty face and you're looking at your legs.
Oh, how delightful.
But it was there on BBC Radio, in Julian and Sandy, in Round the Horn.
Yeah.
2 gay characters, plain sight, Kenneth Williams and Kenneth, I was just say Kenneth Thorne, but I think it's Kenneth Connor. It's gone out of my head anyway. Not to worry, 2 Kenneths. I'm sure somebody will know the name of the other chap. But amazing that was allowed to be on. And this is even before it was all, okay. So they'd have this language, but you could be in a pub and you could talk to each other as a couple of homopolones, a couple of gay men, and you could, excuse me, you could converse and you could say, "Oh, be careful, Betty bracelets," and that means, "Oh, the police coming in, be careful."
All right, okay.
So there's a whole language that came from the ships, the seamen, no pun intended, and they'd had this as a method.
Yeah, because I know there's definitely there was a thing recently about I know there's a fantastic sex educator out there, Amp, who does a show called What's the Safe Word?
Okay.
And he's very much part of the gay community and stuff, and him and his partner did a big thing on handkerchiefs.
Yes.
And the handkerchiefs being in different pockets and what it means, and there's a big code, and they were saying that they'd go up to people and just be like, "Hey, so you're interested in these things?" And they'd be like, what are you talking about? Because the young gays don't get the code. They just see people wearing it and think it's the fashion, and it's fascinating. It's really interesting.
You open your app, and here I am on Old Compton Street in Soho in London, and I'm within 2 centimetres probably of, I mean, it wouldn't be as literally as close as that, or it might be, who knows, to someone, but it's and I don't know that when LGBT History Month happens in February every year, I think it's a good opportunity for schools and other educators and establishments and social media to remind people and younger people, the generations, how much more straightforward. Still with a lot of complications, still with the physical negotiation of consent and getting to know people. Polari was certainly a useful tool for those already out, maybe in the theatre community, and others. I'm not just saying theatrical types, as my mum always says. You are a bit special and affected, Andy, but that's why I call what I do performing wise special and affected. So it reflects that, but I do enjoy the historical references. And because it's colourful, it's interesting. It's part of the what people had to use and the tools available to them in order to live and meet and have a social life.
Because it's I find it really interesting because I've always grown up with this sort of liberal understanding of people just being attracted to other people, and that's okay as long as it's all consenting between adults, all that jazz, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And it's strange to think at one stage that it wasn't, and that you couldn't, you had to use code. You had to, because people weren't okay with it, and it was, like you say, it was offensive to call somebody a gay and etc. And people would sneak around taking massive risks.
Yes,
massive risks.
Totally.
Like,
dressing as one partner, dressing in female clothing to present as the opposite gender, so that they could walk down the street holding hands, go into a venue like a Molly House. So there is in Manchester a place called the Molly House, and that's in a nod and respect to the houses that they had where that kind of activity happened. Then you could be yourselves, but always had that risk of there being a raid. Yeah. And I think that, again, we've had that conversation happen recently with the sad passing of Paul O'Grady. Yeah. Working as Lily Savage in the Royal Vauxhall Tavern, and actually having the police coming in the height of the AIDS crisis, all wearing rubber gloves, thinking we're going to get AIDS, because that's how you get AIDS, by touching people, which is obviously rubbish. Yeah. And she on stage saying, "Oh, good evening, everyone. Welcome. Oh, you've all come to help wash up." Flipping it. Yeah. Into being arrested, and because that's what they did. They would go in. They would try and catch people out. Yeah. Because I remember being like, classically when I was a teenager, me being the flamboyant individual that I was, there was always the thing, Valen's gay, and I would combat it the same way that I combat trolls at the moment, which is just by flirting with people. But at that age, I was like, I'm gonna teach these people what's what. I'll flirt with the most homophobic person in the year. Yeah. So I'd flirt with them, and I remember really clearly them like going to hit me, and me like cowering away, and them going to hit me, and they're like, "God, I'd punch you if I wasn't going to catch gay." At the time, like, my brain was like, "Oh, thank God I haven't been hit." But looking back, I'm like, how naive do you have to be to think, that's the way that you can catch being gay? And I can tell you about something as an idea. And a way of being, and then that will make you gay. Oh, yes. So whenever I'm doing a talk, I always say, and I'm not recruiting. We're not recruiting. We don't need any more. We've got enough. I like being 6% of the population. What I'm doing, I realise now that I'm not as gay as maybe I thought I was, that actually I did have and have had girlfriends and relationships with cisgendered women. But I kind of, I did that. I might be gay. You're gay. No, actually, you're bisexual. No, actually, interesting enough, there are other people that I find attractive, and I've stopped worrying. So the badge or the flag or the whatever, because some people like a badge, some people love a flag. Yeah. Some people don't like labels or anything, and that's lovely as well. But I'm more kind of, I'm pansexual. Nothing to do with the kitchen section in IKEA and being banned from there. As I keep explaining to people, and a really easy throwaway for people to understand that is that I'm hearts, not parts. Yeah. It is truly that person, because I can sit there, listen to somebody speaking, think they're really attractive, and I felt guilty for a while, going, hang on a minute, you're the pride guy, you're the gay guy, you're meant to be the, how very dare you?
I actually remember having a conversation with you about this in it was after one of the many events that we've worked together, and we were just sat there, and you were just like, I don't know, I feel a little bit guilty because I am attracted to that person, and I shouldn't be, in inverted commas. Like,
somebody pointed out to me at the pub recently, my local, and says, gay guy said, works there, fabulous guy, and he said, you go quite straight when you're drunk. Now, I've known that'd be the other way.
Yeah, definitely known that'd be the other way around.
But I would say I'm more chameleon-esque in the way, in the environment I'm in. Because I know you want to see me on Canal Street. You want to see me in Oscar's bar on Canal Street, or in Company Bar, downstairs, camo netting, older gay men predominantly, or just older men, and 80s music, and I'm just happy.
just living the best life.
I know, and it's fitting in, with whatever suits.
Yeah, but that's
how I'm feeling,
great, you know?
and to acknowledge that you can be fluid, and you could be asexual. Yeah,
certainly can be. Yeah,
my mate came out to me as asexual and said, "Was that a thing?" And I said, "Yeah," and it was like a relief on his face.
Oh, that's great.
Because he just thought that he was broken.
Yeah.
And I said, no, not everybody's. I think my biggest problem is always that everybody's having far much more fun than me.
Yeah.
And I have this FOMO all the time.
Yeah.
And again, as I've got older, I've kind of become less precious about that.
Yeah.
And realised that actually, no, people are not necessarily.
You just see, especially in this day and age with social media, you just see people having more fun.
Yeah.
Because they only push out the bits that they're enjoying.
And sex and what happens with people physically is like the porn.
Yes.
That's out there. And that's just super unhealthy. So
we've talked many times on my stream about like the fact that pornography is the cinema of sex, because there's so many people listed. I mean, we've talked so many times about the fact that sex education is appalling in this country. It's getting better, but it's nowhere near what it should be. And so most youths are learning through pornography. And, oh man,
wow.
That's wild.
But you know, and going back to, you know, those nights out, traditionally always the Friday night was always the gay night.
Yeah.
In any city, that was gay night. You know, that was the night. And now having so much choice.
Yeah.
And places like Manchester where, you know, you can literally, if you get fed up in one bar and you don't even like the music or whatever, or what they're serving, or there's somebody in there you don't want to see, you just go to another one, and then you come back again if you want to, because they've probably already gone. And it's just wonderful to have choices.
Yeah.
And it's the same with like, you know, this one time in the year where anywhere worth their salt has a Pride event.
Yes.
Has an opportunity for the LGBTQIA plus community to shine.
Yeah.
Their shop front is open. The venues are Christmas ka-ching, and it's wonderful because they do a lot of the donkey work throughout the year. You know, I'm not saying it's just about licensed premises, but you know, when somebody says where can we go to be safe, they are super safe spaces.
Yeah, 100%.
And they create and curate entertainment and, you know, support for, you know, and it's there. And then of course Sexual Health, MESMAC now in Hull, you know, lots of organisations, gone from like 2 or 3 organisations and a uni group all the way through to, you know, multiply that by maybe, you know, it's about 30 choices of different things, including a fantastic, incredible rugby team.
Oh, I saw.
You know what I mean?
They're amazing, yeah.
Absolutely awesome. And so, and we've got that. We've got queer climbing. I mean, who'd have thought we'd have queer climbing? Queer foraging. Foraging. Foraging, not for queers.
What
foraging for? Foraging for mushrooms and things.
Marjorie.
I mean, not really. It could be anyone. Yes.
Marjorie, I'm heading down to this bushel. I'm off to get the queers.
I found some amazing queers over here behind this bush. Finding them underneath here. I found a toadstool as well. Don't eat it. It's dangerous. Put it down, dear. Oh, we've suddenly got into Hinge and Bracket. You see, Hinge and Bracket during my childhood, they were amazing. And it took me all my time to work out they were 2 blokes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, sorry to
no,
spring that
right.
on you, by the way.
Really?
Realised, oh my goodness me. They pulled the wool completely over my eyes. But just these incredible, that female impersonation, not drag, but they were female impersonators, and having all of that, and you know, and having that childhood with all of these little tiny vignettes of like John Inman and
it's wild, especially
super camp people.
Yeah, like it's wild because obviously with the unfortunate passing of Paul O'Grady, it really brought to light and reminded me that like Paul O'Grady was my childhood. Like so much, all the time. Paul O'Grady, Dame Edna, you know, the whole shebang. Yeah. They were just always part of family TV. In it as we grew up, and to think about obviously what's going on with the drag communities over in America, and to think that they're getting such persecution. But then on top of that, I recently came across there was a movie made in 1943 called "This Is the Army." Okay. Yeah. And it was originally it was in World War One. In America, the American Army put it on to raise morale for the troops.
Right.
And they did it again in World War Two, and then in 1943 they filmed it, and Ronald Reagan starred in it, and all of the cast are all cisgendered male members of the army.
Yes.
All the female parts, all the male parts. You've got all these big burly men in
Yeah.
these little dresses, and
Yes.
and it's phenomenal. And it was all to raise money and morale for the army, to keep everyone happy and smiling and keep fighting and do all the to take their spirits and minds away from the horrific things that they witnessed in those times.
Yes.
But to think that there's such pride in the army in certain parts of the world, and that such hatred for drag, for female impersonators, for trans people as well.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's just like, do you not see the... No, okay, no, you're choosing to... You got your blinkers on, have you?
Absolutely.
All right, no worries, that's fine. You do your thing.
Don't tell. Yeah.
But it's wild. Absolutely
It is wild. And I mean, I think all the way through pantomime,
Yes.
the switch in those roles of the dame and the leading boy or whatever was a woman, young woman,
for a long period of time. Yeah.
And just that acceptance that that's how that was, and that we would laugh at Larry Grayson and these other characters, and even in the Carry On movies, now knowing what I know about those individuals, it's just, and it's all been there, laid out before us. But just having now these opportunities, and bring it back to sort of events and prides, 200 odd prides nationally, including in Ireland, and it's just amazing that we have this thing. Because I've been for the last 6 years what we call Global Advisory Council member for Interpride, which is like a gay UN.
Right, okay.
But not more dysfunctional than that, actually. But representing regionally, Region 10 is the UK and Ireland. So having that opportunity to go on an international call, and occasionally be something like 2 a.m, or whatever, because somewhere in the world, somebody has to take it on the chin and be on that call at that time. But realise that we have a lot in common. There's a lot of countries where it's still a massive, massive struggle, 60 odd, where it's still illegal to be me and you and folks listening.
Yeah, no, it's really
and
wild.
It's horrible, and it's a struggle. But having been a street theatre artist, performer in places like Qatar, I know that's a shared thing, and being on a date with I met up with a very handsome policeman in Qatar.
Honestly, the first time you told me this story, that my heart shot into my throat, thinking, "Good Lord, what happened?"
Oh my goodness! I mean, when he met me, and he said he was he was involved with the police and things, and it was like, just on face value, he could have been telling me a load of pokey pies, really. But it was just lovely. But it was just like, wow, oh dear, here we go. 5 years. It could be 5 years in prison, or 500 lashes or whatever it is that they meet out there, and it's all underground, it's all subversive, and it's all had a great time. Cupertino Chapati, you've had a very nice time, very, very handsome, had all the, it's almost kind of going, wow, you're into that kind of thing, because he did have all the full stereotypical type Arab type garb on, but that that was his national dress. But was just incredible. Yeah,
because I remember going out to Kuwait with fellow performers that we know. And I remember I've got a beautiful robe upstairs, but it was very much designed for a woman. And I remember one of those performers turning around and going, "Oh, Valen, your sister's very much your size, isn't she? Yes. Why don't you try it on just to get the right sizes?" Some of the looks that we got, being being very overtly, "Oh yes, this is definitely for my sister, definitely not for me." And
absolutely.
It was very aware of things.
I think you have to be, and I think that you have to be careful, and not self-destructive in those types of, and also remembering, that you're there to do a job.
Very much
you're
so.
there as a guest of a nation, and provide performance or whatever. It's just a side. There isn't a side, and there is all this. I thought if the government didn't like this, they would switch this off. This would not be functioning. It would be a China type experience, and that wouldn't happen. But it was happening. It was happening, my friend. I too bought stuff that I brought back, but I've never never worn because I'm a little more enlightened about the whole cultural appropriation
cultural
stuff, and I don't
appropriation
want to
stuff,
be, you know, I mean, I get enough stick wearing kilts, and I do have Scottish heritage.
Yeah.
But I have had somebody shout at me, "Get your own culture!" Whilst I don't know where that was from. Get your own culture down Canal Street wearing a kilt.
Good Lord.
And you know, not even a clan one,
No.
just a
But that's
black
something that's
Barathea kilt.
definitely become more like we as an entire society have become more and more aware of as time's gone on, and it's really now, like, especially when I look back at some of the things I used to watch and laugh at, and like you'd sit and watch these movies and you'd be like, oh, that's absolutely hilarious, and then I go back and watch them now, I'm like, what was I thinking? Like, how did I ever find this funny?
No,
Like,
exactly.
It's wild. It's amazing to see how far we've come as a society, which is amazing. But it is also like, oh God, how did I ever, like, I feel guilty for having laughed at this.
Yesterday TV, other channels are available, as I'm sure folks realise. but catching Kenny Everett again is joyful.
Yeah.
And both you know, him and, you know, other people of that generation in Queen and you know, all of that, Freddie would still be here.
Yeah.
If they had been diagnosed now with HIV rather than then.
Yeah.
And It's a Sin is definitely worth a watch because it's of that period.
Yeah.
And you know, even touched on by Pride the movie. You know, and rightly so. These are still massive issues, and still there is ignorance for a lot of people. And I think it's reaching out to those who don't necessarily go to Pride or go to an LGBT plus friendly venue, or would even go to a sexual health clinic, but they will take risks. And they won't want to use a condom, and they won't want to use lube, and they won't necessarily want to talk about, you know, PrEP or anything else. So they won't get educated, and those are the individuals who get missed.
Yeah.
And that opportunity.
And for those that are listening, PrEP is an AIDS HIV medication,
absolutely.
isn't it? So
it's prevention and
prevention.
After, you know, exposure. But I mean, you know, not sat here as an expert by any means, but there are certainly local providers who will give you advice and support, and don't just do Dr. Google. You know, go and speak to you know, people. But yesterday TV and seeing all of that, and then also watching things and thinking, golly, you know, was I a kid watching? I do remember Benny Hill, and I do remember laughing, and I think, what did I find funny?
Yeah.
On that,
massively so.
They're chasing those scantily clad ladies around a park. That's really weird.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah.
And
amount that I've like, you watch it and you're like, oh, I remember the nostalgia. Oh, that'd be great. And then you watch it and you're like, oh, that nostalgia is not there anymore. I remember a very different movie or a very different TV show, and it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Pretty wild.
And I mean, there is a place for comedy. There is a place for, you know, I do a lot of, you know, for me, I self-deprecate a lot. As far as things go, you know, I've even performed in drag. I've even done drag. I mean, again, it might not be something you're aware of that I've done.
No, it
wasn't.
But
it's not. No, but it's not my thing. I don't necessarily do it particularly well, but I have done it. 4 occasions involved in DJing and just being a host or whatever at an event. But I do know people who do it so well and are so dedicated and amazing.
It is an art form.
It is, absolutely. And also, I would say, the whole spectrum of drag.
Yes.
And I need more drag kings in my life. Absolutely.
Well, let me know. I'll hook you up with some.
Please do, because please do, because I'm not just like, you know, Andy wants that in his life. Yeah, I do actually. But I just think that we need to experience more of that and balance off that we have now on mainstream, you know, TV.
I saw RuPaul. A great infographic in like literally about half an hour before you arrived, to be fair. And it was like you've got drag queen and then drag king and then drag performer, who's like a much more non-binary version.
Absolutely.
And then drag creature, which is really out there, wild stuff. And I'm just like, bloody hell, this is amazing. This is fantastic, you know.
And I mean, my confession to you as well is, I remember being asked to host a burlesque night in a hotel in Hull, and I'd never been to a burlesque night before.
When was this?
And I was this was like This was like over nearly 20 years ago.
Okay, that's all right. You can be forgiven.
Yeah, and I was. I mean, I from a performer point of view, found it really inspiring and incredible, and it was just wonderful, and all these characters who had these incredible names and the costumes and everything, and the from one being super artistic and debonair and graceful to just hilarious.
Yeah,
just being cheeky and fun.
But that's something that people don't. I know full well, because I do a lot of cabaret stuff myself. But the amount of burlesque performers I know, like some do like the classique style burlesque, and they're absolutely beautiful, fantastic, and then others do really like street dance style burlesque, or really entertaining burlesque, really funny burlesque, and the amount of grief that some of these performers get because it's not burlesque, and it's like because people have seen the movie Burlesque and suddenly
that's what it should be. I've seen RuPaul's Drag Race. That's how drag queens should be. Absolutely not.
Which is wild, because if you watch RuPaul's Drag Race, like I thought about this a little while ago, if you watch RuPaul's Drag Race, you don't think Dame Edna, you don't think Lily Savage.
No,
like they wouldn't. It's a different generation, different style of drag.
And even I'm seeing Barry Humphries. I went down to see the man behind the wig or the frock or whatever the show was called. Quite a senior, almost statesman.
Yeah,
he's straight.
Yeah,
but still, this character that has helped, inspired, entertained, and some of the bits and bobs even within his show. Where he just was on stage as himself, sort of explaining, just incredible. And again, I've enjoyed, and I could talk about, those other characters that he's done. Celeste Patterson with the appendage.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd just like to say how honoured I am as the Australian cultural attaché, and just all this kind of all teeth and dribbling and just the grotesque.
Ness,
and then the Dame Edna. But again, all of these things they do play with these stereotypes, these characters. This lecherous beast of Celeste Patterson. Completely full on, and my goodness me,
because I think that's. I mean, I don't really know enough about drag. Maybe I should get a drag artist on to talk about. I've always seen it as like a. It's always been a caricature, or like, because they're so over the top and they're beautiful. The level of outfits they put on, the wigs, the makeup is exquisite. Even the more as this infographic I said was like the drag creature. They're still exquisite. The amount of time and detail that have gone into these things is phenomenal.
I was also reminded as the nights rolled on in gear and struggling on high heels. I mean, that was one of the main things that I found so difficult. And I know I could have done alternative, but in my head I still felt that was what I had to do, was feel as if I was falling over all the time on these high heels. Be reminded about that I looked the way I looked, and when people were chatting or attracted or interested in you, do remember you look like you look.
Yeah.
You're not you.
Yeah.
And that's what you've got.
That was
on.
Definitely. I was speaking to a mutual friend of ours, who I won't mention here.
No, absolutely.
But was they put on an event, and there was a member of the audience who took a shine to one of the drag performers, not realizing that it was definitely a cisgendered man in drag, and then got very offended at the fact.
Absolutely.
I've been deceived, and it's like, no, they look amazing, they look fantastic. Of course you're attracted to them, but no, I've been deceived.
It's not to trick you,
no,
but it's to, I mean, I suppose you could say trickery. It's an entertaining fooling of what you're looking at, and you do find yourself kind of going.
I was about to say I wouldn't call it trickery any more than panto. You mentioned panto. It's like this
an
is
illusion.
Yeah, exactly. This is a young lady who's pretending to be Peter Pan.
That's
like
right.
that is.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's just like, cool, because the youthful looks. I get it. It makes complete sense, and it's like they're not. It's not trickery. It's just part of the performance, and.
Yes.
you know, if you're attracted to a drag queen, then that's all right because they look amazing. Do you know what I mean? Like
and there is a whole thing for that.
Exactly. Oh, I have no doubt. I have absolutely.
They've also got their own flag as well.
Oh, do they?
So you could do a whole, you know, there's like, you know, we're talking about Hanky Code, Polari, you know, the flags that are available, you know, and all the letters of the acronym, you know, it's like, is everyone in there?
That's why they call us the Alphabet Mafia, isn't it?
Yeah,
Because there's just so many letters these days.
Absolutely. And being over in Canada for an Interpride conference and meeting folks who identify as Two-Spirit people was another kind of opportunity to look at the whole world of trans.
Yeah. I don't know much about it, but I know, especially with... I've learned more and more about a lot of the community that I have is trans community. And I've not come across anybody who is Two-Spirited.
No.
But I know that in regards to like ancient cultures and stuff like that, basically what got rid of the trans identity and the non-binary identities and third genders and fourth genders and what have you was British colonialism. Basically, we basically took over and just was like, there's like ancient cultures that believe in so many different genders and the like trans people being more closer to the divine because of things.
And shaman and all the rest of it. Yeah, absolutely.
And it's phenomenal to find out about, but it's also like, bloody hell! What did we do? What did we do?
And that's those are those countries that we've since left.
Yeah,
and they've tried to continue and done, but they've got all these attitudes and
the preconceptions
scary,
that we've left. Yeah,
you know, and it is, and you know, doing some work in Hull with. Not virtue signaling by any means, but just a need, particularly during lockdown, with charity in Hull called Welcome House, with refugees and those that are coming from countries because of their sexual orientation and or gender identity. Because if they stayed at home, they'll be killed.
Yeah.
So that the anguish and the torment that they put themselves through to get from that place they were at to journey, to go on a little boat to. You know, risk their lives to get to somewhere that they want to call home, and they want to, you know, become involved with our communities and you know, and do all the things that they want to do and flourish and just be themselves is quite incredible.
Yeah.
So standing there and kind of like, you know, going, well, here I am or whatever, but also acknowledging how there will be people who go to LGBT plus friendly venues, that will go to Pride, that will come from other countries where they just they want to be and choose to be and can be super discreet.
Yeah.
So they can arrive at the Pride event even when we have changing facilities. So they can come as Michael and spend the day as Michelle.
Yeah,
That's okay.
Yeah,
you can do
100%.
that. And I know folks who won't come to Pride in Hull but will go to Leeds because they're a teacher.
Yeah. And that's a big thing, especially today on International Transgender Visibility Day.
Absolutely.
It's really important to say that regardless of who you are or what stage you are of your journey, you're still valid, you're still important, you're still loved. You are. And there's a lot of us that are,
and you're not on your own.
Yeah, you're not on your own. There's loads of people out there. You're
Come in,
good.
the water's lovely.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's wonderful.
I mean, I mean, you can sit here and I can say, after having experienced all the things I've experienced, had relationships with those trans non-binary people that I've had, and learnt so much, and there's a privilege of being, you know, like literally driving someone to a gender clinic in Leeds from Hull and nursing someone through top surgery, you know, and looking after them and checking on drains and things and whatever. I don't mean drains outside, I mean a chest drain and all the rest of it. Just experiencing that, but still don't fully can never fully appreciate the anguish of gender dysphoria, of being rejected by your family or friends. You know,
I remember really clearly because a very dear friend of mine who's actually another streamer, but I remember when he got his top surgery and I know that they'd done it wrong the first time.
Right.
He'd had a couple of complications the first time, but then he got it redone, and there was a photo on Twitter of when he got it done, and I was just like, the level of joy that he had, the level of sheer euphoria that he felt, and I was like, how dare anyone try and take this away from him? That's a level of joy that I don't think I'll ever have. Because how could I ever experience that? But the just the feeling of just feeling yourself, of being the way that you feel inside and the way that makes you feel right. And I'm just like, yes, wow, it's awe-inspiring. It really is.
And also to say thank you to those people who feel that they can share that publicly.
Yes, 100%.
That have that platform and have that opportunity, and good people like yourselves and others, I'm sure, that are listening or watching this, that they do share it, because it is a big thing. And again, another cliche, but you've got to see it to be it, and that's really, really important. That, you know, there will be people struggling, and there will be people out there, and like we say, you're not on your own. That there will be, you know, whether you get help from a national organisation or a local organisation, you know, whether you're a parent of someone or a friend of someone, and allies are so important.
Yeah.
You know, and I do count myself as an ally to the trans community,
for sure.
On this day. There's a flag for that as well.
Yeah, there is. You know, which I only recently found out about. I was like, this is amazing. This is fantastic.
But an ally flag generally, and then obviously with the Monica Helms flag on the black and white stripes.
Yes.
With the A for ally, or the arrow going up, as I always tell people. I always joke about flying the flag upside down, by the way. I've always kept this. I've always purported that if you fly a rainbow flag, Gilbert Baker will be very, very upset. But if you fly the rainbow flag up, he'll be turning in his grave. Fly a rainbow... Too soon? No, maybe not. Flying a rainbow flag upside down signals that a gay person's in distress. And I was told this by somebody who'd heard it from somebody else, who'd heard it from somebody else, who'd heard it from me. Because it was a joke. It was just said as a joke, you know. Because I mean, the Union flag upside down, or Union Jack on a boat, would be, if there was a distress, if there was a disease or whatever, that would be flown upside down as a signal to stay away or be wary, be aware. So I'd kind of said this, and I mean, I'd been it was an early Bradford Pride. Yeah, they have Pride in Bradford. They're amazing. They're City of Culture in 2025. They're going to be good. And I went in a bar in there, and they had 3 rainbow flags behind the bar, and the middle one was upside down. And I said to someone, I said, I'll have a drink. But I said, thanks for flying the flags. But I said, your middle one's upside down. And then I did the story of in distress. And the bar manager came over and said, I'm dreadfully sorry, sir. We shall change it round straight away. Thank you for pointing it out. The member of staff who is gay should have known. They should have known that it was the wrong way round. And I said, but that doesn't happen. When someone comes out or someone becomes aware of themselves, you don't get a pack through the post. You don't get like a little box.
Just download the encyclopedia.
You get access to the back catalogue of Barbra Streisand, all the dance moves from Steps. You know, and a flag. Yeah. A flag of your choosing, of the many different
It'd be wonderful if that did happen.
It'd be fabulous. And the Poles put it on. And you invite to Pride. No, and it's not. And I think that it's amazing now that you can be a young person, come out at school, have friends that support you, potentially, hopefully family as well, and have a little club as well at school. Yeah. That's the LGBTQIA plus support group, and march in Pride, go Pride. You know, any American family, siblings watching this from the States, it's a march. It's never a parade.
All right.
Yeah, always a march. Yeah, it's a march, and I've learnt that in my short time with Interpride. From the folks that know. But it is joyful to think how that's there. And I've done talks in colleges and schools, and the kids have been amazing, and they've come up at the end and said, thank you for coming, but we get it. And I said, I know you get it already, because you've got this environment that you're in that's really super supportive. But they then said to me, but will you come to my house and tell my mum and dad? And I've gone, no. but how handsome is your dad? But you know, or your parent figures in your life. But but yeah, I do think that over time it will sort itself out. Yeah, it's a generational thing. But these things just have to keep on going.
Yeah. because it's definitely it's one of those things that I think is really important. And I remember being younger and getting really frustrated at how slowly society moved.
Yeah.
And it's only like in my mid to late 20s that I sat back and looked back 50 years, 100 years, 200 years, and was like, do you know what? We have come a long bloody way.
Yeah.
Like, we're still got a long way to go.
Yeah, totally.
But we, like, in the grand scale of history, we have come a long way in regards to just acceptance and stuff. So it's great.
Pride-wise, we are still in this kind of, like, shock and awe moment of it's been 50 years since the first Prides, predominantly in places like London.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, you know, just a little bit of a step back from, you know, or you know, further back in the States, but still, you know, having that and having come such a long way, but also having now organisations like the police. I know from county to county, even in the UK, Pride organisers have either good, bad, or indifferent relationships with their own local police force, and we're very, very lucky in Humberside, despite, you know, what some may say, but we are threaded within their organisation, as they have their own LGBT plus network. They have us involved with independent advisory groups. They come to Pride, you know, they have a presence, and they've gone from being policing the event in the 1970s to being part of the event.
And that's so good. Like, even I always try and think of like when it comes down to prejudices, there's a difference between like individual prejudice, which is a person being prejudiced, and a system of prejudice. And I definitely think that in my experience, the police was definitely both individuals and the system was very prejudiced. But now it's slowly, the system is, whether regardless of the individuals, because we can't control those, but the system itself is slowly becoming more tolerant across the board. And it's good to hear that the local police, at least, have definitely got a more open mind towards acceptance and support. But
not saying it's right completely, because there will be always, and at the moment they are in the process of, you know, the Met is a 40,000 organisation that is obviously having to rebuild from the ground up. And for us in Humberside, about 4,000 members of staff, but still having that review opportunity and reassurance from the Chief Constable, and also the Police and Crime Commissioner, who supports Pride and comes to Pride, and you know, they're all there. I mean, who'd have thought that would be, that they would be, but why not? And it's fab.
And wanting to come as opposed to coming out of obligation, and that's the real thing.
And having individuals, you know, we have, and this is about relationships. It is about forming positive, you know, relationships where you can communicate and that you can say what's going on, and you can have quite uncomfortable conversations sometimes and say, actually, you got that wrong. That person, that they had a really bad experience when they reported, you know, a hate incident or hate crime, and they do need help and support, but you need to sort that out. I mean, I've done mystery shopper with Humberside Police, been really kind of distressed. And, you know, so I've been, you know, I've had some abuse from a group of lads down my street, and that was the story. And done that in various police. I mean, there comes a point where I can't do that anymore because people go, we know who you are. Why are you?
Why are
you saying you're Bill Smith when we know you're not Bill Smith? I you know, I always joke about I could never rob a bank in Hull because it would be like, oh, Andy, how much do you need? I wish. But there are those opportunities to do that, and I do think that we've been not very clever, but I think we've been amenable and friendly and welcoming, and presented our stall in love to all, and you can all come in, but you've got to play nice, you know. You come in here and you have to behave, and we do have the rules outside the event. And if you're not going to play it, you go away. If you're not interested, you also go away.
It's not for everybody, and that's okay. Everybody.
No, because we just want nice people in here. That's why most Prides you will go, wow, what an incredible atmosphere, and they're like nothing else ever, and it's just pure love and support and, you know, just joy. of celebrating everybody, and particularly for us this year, looking at Hull City Centre and looking at all aspects of people's lives, access all areas, whether it's a faith point of view or a kink point of view or a family point of view or an artistic point of view, or you just want to be there just to see a group that you've heard about or you've seen on TV and never seen them perform live in front of you, or be in our march. And experience that as a member of staff from a company that has good, clear rainbow credentials.
That would be nice.
Then that's what that is. Not necessarily about making it bigger and better than anywhere else, because it's not. This is not a football league.
No, it's not about being better.
It's going, well, Leeds is Leeds Pride. Pride in Hull is Pride in Hull. You know, we've got Beverley Pride coming on. That's going to be based at the rugby club.
Oh, wow.
It's got a really, positive rugby, approach. The Roundheads involved and the female team that they've got there at the rugby club, and then having an event with all aspects of what you'd normally find at a Pride. You know, World's Pride in Pocklington, Bridlington Pride at the Spa. I mean, who knew that we'd have Brid Pride? You know, they're gonna have a march on the front. You know, we're gonna go gay on the beach. And they're gonna have all of that. Scunthorpe.
Yeah,
Scunthorpe's having a Pride.
It's so wild to think.
Wow.
I remember being younger and thinking, like, you would go to one of the big cities for a Pride.
That's right.
And the idea that all these... you do. Definitely.
Yeah.
But, like, the fact that all these little, smaller towns and villages and stuff are all getting their own Prides is really cool.
Yeah.
It's great.
Even and you shouldn't. I always say to people, and there is definitely a movement of Pride tourism that folks are going. I mean, the first big one I did was Europe. I always thought all Prides were like this. Euro Pride in 2003, and that was in Manchester. And it blew my mind. I will confess something. People might enjoy listening to me telling you how I got pulled in a queue. I got pulled in a queue by a guy, and literally he said to me, he said, "You're from Hull, aren't you?" And I said, "Yes, I am." He said, "Where are you staying?" I said, "Just here in that room up there." He said, "Come on, let's go." And that was talk about classy.
I love it.
Classy.
Love it.
Absolute classy. I was newly out.
Yeah.
It was shiny. It was exciting. I was in teen mode in my head.
Yeah.
You know, that I'm just out and I'm just trying to find what's what. And I had a big smile on my face for the rest of that day. But it was looking back, I kind of think, wow, that was like really romantic, wasn't it? But you know, both adults. He was from Hull, I was from Hull, and it was just the fact that I was from Hull and he recognised me.
Oh, I love that.
Doesn't happen now. It's slightly more embarrassing. I've got family members who go out on the scene in Hull, and I do warn them about name dropping, because I said some venues they will not let you in if you say you're my niece or nephew or whatever. But I mean, one of my nephews did say, "You've got to let me in. My uncle is the head gay," and I had to tell him that wasn't a thing. And that I was no, there is no such thing, and that I, just because I for a long time have been prepared to hold my head above the parapet, I've been shot. I mean, I've been shot a lot of times, as far as kind of people within our community, as far as the people outside the community, haters in and out, people who are suspicious or jealous or whatever.
I've definitely
don't even know me.
Yeah,
they don't even know me.
I've definitely seen it myself as well, from like the far right and the far left, and both of them have the same amount of energy for venom.
Yes.
From completely different standpoints. And if you're somewhere in the middle and you make yourself known, you will get attacked from both sides.
That's right.
It's definitely happened. I've definitely experienced
being
that.
not mainstream Radio Humberside, talking about Pride, talking about different events, and Pride. As anybody who's involved with any events, as you are, you'll know there's so many people who are also involved to make that happen.
Yes.
It cannot be one person.
Oh God, no.
Yes, there might be one or two people who go, yeah, I'm prepared to speak on that. But actually, I do spend a lot of my time now going, talk to them. Or talk to this person. Don't speak to me. If I get an email through from a concerned parent with a child, they're redirected straight to support groups to do with young people. you know, I don't want to be that filter. I don't want to be a gatekeeper.
Yeah.
But I do want to be a signposter. I do want to go, that's where you need to be and get support. And if you don't get what you need from that, then come back to me and I'll try somewhere else. So on the radio, on Radio Homicide, talking about stuff, and it's gone from where they would get comments sent in and I'd say, oh, is anybody? And they go, Andy, you don't need to know. You don't need to know what people have said. You know, or even on the soft side of things where they go, I don't agree with Andy or what he stands for, this whole gay thing, or trans thing, whatever this weird thing is he's talking about. But he does sound like a nice guy. You know what I mean? So that's okay. Yeah. You're okay with me as a person, but not
not my existence.
Not with what I'm representing. And there are lots of other people who do represent, and there are lots of people who are far more, you know, aware or educated or having a different experience. And I always say, I'm not the sage on the stage, I'm the guide on the side. I literally am somebody who is passionate about, if I had that opportunity to speak to me back 20 odd years ago, would say, you know, these are the options that are available to you, and you are going to be all right, mate. And you are going to be able to live your life. It's not going to be easy. There's going to be some ups and some downs and stuff, but you can do your thing. And that's kind of still the motivation.
That's great. It's good that you've still got that. And that's actually, to be fair, a very good place to leave it there.
Okay.
That's great. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
For those people that are listening, watching the VOD, I will put some links down below in regards to anybody who might need help for any mental health issues or suicide health issues. I'll put a link down below for PrEP, information about PrEP, so that everyone's aware. And I'll also put some LGBTQIA resources there so that you'll be able to, if you are questioning yourself or you're not sure what's going on, you're wondering about bits and pieces, then you have some resources there available for you as well. Thank you very much, Andy, for being a part of this. I really appreciate this. Where can people find you?
If you Google Andy Train on most social media platforms, you'll find me. If you want to see what I look like in different performance guises, at Andy Train Hull on Facebook. But generally speaking, at Andy Train, and you'll find me.
I will make sure I also put some links to Andy's profiles in the description down below as well.
Thank you.
But thank you so much for joining me. It's been a great chat, other than the technical difficulties.
That's all right.
the PA system trying to harsh down, trying to be anti-gay.
It's life.
It certainly is. But yeah, thank you
you
so much for that.